All right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Great to have each and every one of you here with us today. We're anxious to talk about two traits today. So we have quite a bit to talk about. And again, if you have, and we're going to be focusing on trait 53 and trait 62. So if you have either of those traits in your design, we would love to hear from you. So today is July 12th, 2022. Can you believe we're almost halfway through July already? This is episode 164. And again, we're going to be focusing on two traits. We're going to take a look at trait 53, which is the trait for today. And then tomorrow we move into trait number 62. So we're going to take a look at two traits today. So we're going to take a look at new beginnings to see the details. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. Now, before we get started, let's say hello to our panel. Let's start with Anna. Hello, Anna, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, welcome. Glad to see everyone. This will be interesting today.
Yes, great to have you here. Welcome. And let's say hello to Shelly. Hello, Shelly, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here. Glad to be checking out the end of the new beginnings so that we can look at the details later.
Exactly. And again, all of you who are live in our Zoom room, especially if you do have trait 53 or you do have trait 62, we would love to hear from you during the course of our webinar today. So let's jump in and get started. We have in July the theme of purpose fulfilled through form. And we are taking a look at July, provoking the start of a new beginning by looking at the details, telling stories about the past, and stepping up as a leader and revealing the secrets of the past as well. So we have taken a look at obstructions. That's what we took a look at last week with provocation, the journey towards spirit, and that pressure. That pressure, we're still going to be in the pressure. We're now in the pressure of starting things new, of new beginnings of the 53. So this past week, we've been in the 53 of new beginnings. This is development. This is also about transition and change. And if you've taken a look at all the craziness going on in the world, there's been a lot of craziness and transition and change and pressure going on in the world as well. So today is the last day that we're going to be in a trait 53. Tomorrow we will be in details of the 62. This is preponderance of the small. This is the I think expression. So we're going to be moving from pressure, right? We had the pressure of provoking. We have the pressure of new beginnings. Right before that, we had... we also, let's see, that was the 15. So again, we've been under this pressure and now we're moving into the final four expressions. And remember, if we take a look at this purpose fulfilled through form, all the traits of communication and action can be found in this purpose fulfilled through form. So we have the last four of our expressions, and all four of them are all they are all about sharing. They're all about the collective. So we have the details, the preponderance of the small, the logical sharing. We have stimulation, the wanderer, the storyteller, the I believe expression, which is the abstract collective. We have influence, which is the logical expression of influence. We also have retreat, which is the abstract, another abstract expression of the collective. So these last four traits, what we're going to be going through in the rest of July, is all focused around sharing and sharing what's happening in the collective, both logically and abstractly, both the details, right, and the facts, as well as the stories and what we remember. Right? So that's what we're going to be experiencing for the rest of July. So let's jump in. And because we have two traits to look at, let's jump in right away and take a look at the theme for today. So today we are in trait 53, which is all about beginnings. This is development. This is transition. This is also change. So this is the fuel needed to begin something new. Typically, to get something off the ground, you need a little bit more fuel. You need a little bit more energy to get things started. So again, this is the pressure. This is the fuel to begin something new. This is about development, transition, change. This is about initiating a new cycle. So initiating a cycle whose time has come and being able to see it flower, ripen, and leave a seed for the future. And so one of the things about starting a cycle, you want to start the cycle correctly. This is both in the bigger sense, but also for ourselves personally. If you start a cycle that may not be correct for you, sometimes you can't even get out of that cycle until it comes to its natural completion. And sometimes if you don't allow it to come to that natural completion, you have to begin a new cycle and you have to encounter the same things over and over and over in the cycles. So you want to start a cycle that has the ability to come to its full closure so that the cycle can end. And when the cycle ends, you can then begin a new cycle. So your role in life is to provide the impetus to get a cycle moving. So specifically, if you have this trait, and especially if you have this trait as your core essence, part of your role is to provide that impetus to get a new cycle started. And development as a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. All right. So again, with the cycle, it continues to move forward until it comes to its end. And there's an intensity with this pressure. It's the intensity to start something that one moment will follow, that will start one moment and fall away the next. And that's why you want to make sure that you wait for clarity. Because again, sometimes we have false starts and we think that things are started and then they fall away, right? We want something that has that full ability to grow into completion. And this is the format fuel for cycles. Again, it is also one of the collective fuels, and it's the collective abstract fuel of, in a sense, what we're going to be taking a look at later this month of telling stories and remembering. When we take a look at this is the beginning of a story, right? And a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in a sense, this is the format fuel that, in a sense, goes through that collective circuitry that creates those beginnings, middles, ends that leaves us with the stories to tell and the lessons that we learn. So this is one of the traits that I have. This is in my grounding. It's part of my life work as well. So I feel like even with BG5 and the BG5 Business Institute, it's beginning something new, not from scratch, but based on what's been there in the past. And that's the trait that I have here in the 53. And so taking what has been really fully established in human design and translating that into business, just as Ra saw, translating that into business to be able to really get BG5 out and get this information out in a bigger way. So I would love to hear from Shelley and Anna how you see this 53. I don't remember, I forgot to look to see if either of you had the 53. And also if anyone here who is attending live, if you have the 53, we would love to hear from you as well. So you can just raise your hand, and when we're ready, we'll also call on you. So let's start with Anna.
Yeah, I do have the 53. And I've learned to relate to it again as a innovator. Even though this isn't technically an innovative strength, it has, or trait, it has a lot of the initiating properties. And just like the screen before this, it's really important to start correctly, because you want to go through that whole cycle all the way till leaving the seeds for the future. I love that part, partly because I'm a gardener, but this whole thing about completing it, starting it right and completing. one of the things about this is two things. If you don't quite start something correctly for you, according to your strategy and authority, your decision-making strategy, you can get really bogged down. There's maybe not enough energy, or there's chaos, or there's constant change that can't create completion. So you do have to wait for the whole season, the whole 4 seasons, for it to come back around. But if you do start something and it is correct for you, sometimes, especially for someone like me that does not have the energizing, the generator energy, you can pass that material or project or idea on to somebody that can finish it or bring it to completion. So there's two avenues here. If you do start, it can be correct, and it can also be correct to move on and allow somebody else to, excuse me, to finish it, or that has the energy. But getting the cycle going, the pressure, sometimes the pressure you'll get a great idea. You'll get a lot of energy for something, but you do want to wait to see if that energy remains, if it sustains itself, if you feel prompted by your body to go through the steps, whatever the steps are. A lot of times you'll just feel that initial energy, but as you wait, the intensity might die back a little bit, but you're going to feel what that next step is and what that trajectory is. And that's a very important part of this.
Yeah, beautiful, Anna. Yeah, thank you. And how about for you, Shelley?
Yeah, it's really great listening to both of you, knowing that you've both got it and being able to work with you. The first thing I noticed is that I don't have this, and it just kind of hit me. It's like, oh, well, no wonder it's so hard for me to get things started then. I'm a builder. I'm not an innovator. I'm not meant to kind of get things moving. And if I think back into my work life where I was project manager, sometimes it was really hard to get the project going, and I really had to wait a lot to feel out. I didn't even know I was using my decision making at the time, but it just wouldn't feel like there was any energy behind it to get it to go. So I would just have to wait until I felt like that energy was there and the right things were lined up and that the people were ready to go. And often there's a lot of project managers out there that don't care about that. They'll just pick a date and have an end date, and we got to do this now, and they just push through. And I've watched that play out as well. And sometimes it works, and a lot of the times it doesn't. It falls flat halfway through, or they end up with a whole lot of changes having to be made along the way. Or anyways, I think it's really important to understand how this works, that those beginnings, middles, and ends of a cycle for someone who's got this defined are really almost noticeable, where for someone like me who doesn't have it, I'm only aware that I have a hard time getting things started sometimes. Yeah, this week has been great. I get ideas all the time for things I'd really love to do, and I'll talk about them for a bit, and then they just kind of will fizzle. So it's really, finding people to work with who have this and who can get it started, or who can get that spark going. And because I think once something's underway, I have the energy to carry it out. I have the commitment to see it through. And that's where a lot of my project work ended up being successful, was because I was really committed to getting it done. I had the vision and I was committed to getting it done. Just needed to wait for things to line up so that it could go. But that's kind of been my experience of it, is that sometimes it's hard to get it to get started. So
yeah. And beautiful example, if you don't have it, and this is one of the things in BG5, is taking advantage, if you will, of, if you don't have someone and you want to get something started, maybe look for someone who has the 53 right? That can help you get things started, that can help you move things along or begin a new cycle. And, once that new cycle is begun, right, there's some people that are here to begin new cycles, and there's others who are here to, once the cycle has been started, to take hold of the cycle and start to unfold that cycle to bring it through towards completion as well. There's other people that are designed to complete the whole process. I'm really good at starting things. Sometimes I'm not so good at ending things or bringing things to a close. So I need support in that, in having the 53, but not having the 42 on the other side, to help me bring things to completion. Exactly. So I'm curious, is there anyone here that is live in our Zoom room? Or again, if you're watching live on Facebook as well, that has the 53 or has experience with working with someone with the 53, because we would love to hear from you. Again, all you have to do is you raise your hand and we'll unmute you, and we would love to hear from you. Yes, Lori. Oh, let me make sure there you go. Hi, Lori. Welcome.
Hi, I don't have the 53, but I have the 42, and I have a lot of 53s in my life who get me started. And what I've noticed is I can have an idea, but I don't have the energy to get it going. But when the 53 comes along, it's like rocket fuel. And I really appreciate all of you. And I've noticed since I was a teenager that whenever I would go to a party, I wouldn't be the one who started the party, but I'd always be there at the end cleaning up. And that goes till this day. I don't know if I don't enter the parties correctly, but I just thought that was an interesting manifestation of it. It's almost like a force field, just keeps me there till the end to make sure it's all okay. But
I love that. It's really perfect. And again, the 53s need the 42s to bring things to completion, and the 42s need the 53, right, to be able to get things going. And it is, in a sense, sort of like the rocket fuel. It does take a lot of energy on takeoff. And that's a beautiful, beautiful example. Thank you so much, Lori. And that plays into what we're going to talk about, is how you get affected when you're connected. So again, this is the shadow of trait 53, or when you don't have 53, just like what Lori was talking about. And particularly if you have trait 42, but you don't have trait 53. So it's the lacking the initiating a spark to start something new. So just like Lori was saying, right, you want to start something new, but it doesn't really get going until you have that 53. And yet you're here to bring things to the close so that at the end of the party, everything is wrapped up. So everything is brought to a complete close. So you're great at finishing things, but have a hard time getting things started, or starting something new in the correct way. Do you have a hard time getting things off the ground? Do you repeat the same cycles over and over and over again? Right, because you are not initiating, in a sense, a new cycle, so you get stuck, if you will, in the old cycle. And because you lack the initiating spark, you may find that you lack the staying power to complete the process, or feel frustrated trying to start things that never really get going. And you might find that unfinished or incomplete aspects of a cycle have to be revisited in a new cycle, because in a sense, you're trying to initiate a cycle, in a sense, incorrectly. So therefore it doesn't fully get completed. So you have to revisit those things in a new cycle. The solution is, again, you are designed to work with others who can help get cycle started in the correct way, and therefore making it easier to bring the cycle to its natural conclusion. And Lori, that's something that you beautifully, beautifully described. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add, but what you just shared is a perfect example of this.
Let's see. I have I'm almost a compulsion to finish things, and I often have to stop myself, put the brakes on, because I'll be late for the next thing, because it's kind of an obsession with the 42. But again, it's very dependent on other people. I haven't had the experience so much of continuing to repeat things.
Mm.
I don't know why, but things, I guess I have a lot of 53s around to get new things started.
Exactly. And it sounds like you're pretty dedicated to bringing things to a close. And oftentimes, where you have to repeat things in a cycle is when you've started a cycle that's not correct or not the correct timing, right? If you force yourself to start a cycle when it's not correct, that's where you end up having to revisit things in a new cycle, because it's hard to bring it to a full completion if it hasn't been started correctly. So, yeah. Sounds like you.
Oh,
Maybe in relationships that I had when I was much younger, there would be people all with the same name, one after the next. So maybe something there.
Well, beautiful. Thank you so much, Lori. And yes, Anna.
yeah, one thing I wanted to add here is in terms of the structured progression of the 53, because there's cycles within this whole cycle, so that there's phases of a project or a learning or a business or whatever it is. So there's phases. So when you start it correctly, then yeah, the 42 can come in and help finish it. But I also want to say sometimes in that sense that people that have the 53 and you don't have to finish it, you can pass it to the correct person. It's still organically correct that there's stages of this progressive development. So that what I'm trying to say is if you have to repeat a process, that is normal. It's not just shadow, it can be shadow, but probably the difference is one is more painful than the other. You know, when you find yourself in a shadow, usually you're in static or frustration or, you know, disillusionment, something, the key indicators. But it also, in a bigger sense, in a collective sense, we go through cycles of starting, of transition, of change, and that's ongoing. So maybe just muse on the difference between a cycle that's not quite correct for you and the inability to finish that versus cycles that repeat normally. We usually learn by repeating things.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, Anna. Yeah. Beautifully said. Beautiful. And Leanna.
Hi, thank you. So I'm just looking at my chart. I'm looking at my girlfriend's chart. She's in the Zoom room as well. She's got the 53 and I have the 42 and we work together. So this is such great clarity for us that we'll be able to look at, you know, where the energy is in the beginnings, where the energy is, and for the closings, we can ask advice from each other, right? But what's really interesting is we were talking about this week because the value of following and being aware of the BG5 background frequencies, how they're affecting us, that sparked a conversation between the two of us. And it was quite profound. We haven't actually taken the time to fully unpack it yet, which I'm hoping we'll get to do maybe later today. But it was really big for both of us. And I'll just share something that Mel said. She said, when we are tainted from the experience that hasn't been completed properly and carrying the burden of the unresolved experience, because not all experiences, and so this has been huge for me. So I've been looking at strategies for when you leave something, and let's make it specifically about work and career. So when you're leaving something, you're leaving a role, it was correct at a time. Maybe it never was correct, but maybe it even was for a time. But let's just say something shifts, something changes, and you find that it's no longer correct. And yet that thing is still going. So let's say that project, that team, that work environment, whatever it is, it's still going, that contract. But let's say you find that it's no longer correct for you. So I'm imagining that there's a lot of shame And that this would trigger, because I have found this personally, that this has been a really big thing for me in leaving a team that I loved. And then I realized that it just moved to a place where it no longer fit. But when I look back, it didn't give me the infrastructure that I did need in the beginning. But guess what? As a 3, so this is to all the 3s out there, trial and error. Sometimes you don't know until you know. So because I've had that experience now, and it was a new experience in a new industry, now I know what I need in the beginning. So sometimes, we don't know, like I needed to have that. But I just wanted to share that if you do find that you've left something, I've been thinking about the strategies in how to tie it up into completion, even when you have left, or you could even look at your relationships. When you've left something, when you've left someone, and it's still going, or it still desires to have the connection and to have your energy, but you don't, or they do and you don't. So I think this is it's quite profound, this one.
Yeah.
And it can be painful. It can be painful.
Yeah. And this is one of the format energies. When we talk about the format energies, this sets up the whole collective abstract circuitry, that the whole collective abstract circuitry goes through beginnings, middles, ends, beginnings, middles, ends, and sometimes, sometimes again, the endings can be painful. And letting things go and allowing that cycle to fully complete can sometimes be difficult. And knowing that things operate in a cycle, this is part of the format energy that sets up the human experiential way. The human experiential way is beginnings, middles, ends. I mean, we're born, we live our life, and we pass away, right? Our life is lived in beginnings, middles, ends. And the same thing with our different phases of our career, different phases of our family, different phases of life, all of these cycles. And so understanding the cycles, and as you said, Leanna, being able to let them go at the end, to allow them to fully complete. And it's almost like when you allow it to fully complete, something brand new can then arise out of that. Yeah, really beautiful. Beautiful. Anything else about either trait 53 or trait 42 before we shift gears? And again, this is what's been going on in the past week. And so also just kind of take a look at the news and things that have been happening over the last week. And again, things are shifting and changing. We are now, again, we'll take a look at the details of what we're going to be taking a look at moving forward into this week as well, and seeing things and how they also unfold. Any questions? Anyone else want to add anything about trait 53?
Yeah, Karen, I'll just add on a bit. I've been sitting here pondering because I have this whole strength wide open, which makes it really flexible, and also, it can become wisdom. I don't know that I'm wise about this quite yet, but I'm certainly going to pay more attention now. The thing that keeps popping to mind is how Leanne mentioned something about, not being able to leave sometimes when it's time to go, and what I recognize in myself is that I'm never really clear where things are beginning and where they're ending. It's kind of seems to be a real flow. Like there's no distinct beginning or ends for me that I notice. And I recognize that may be because I don't have either of these defined, that when it is defined for people, it's easier maybe for you to notice those beginnings, middles, and ends. And that I know that when I'm trying to finish something, I think it might have been Lori saying that it's hard to pull yourself away because you want to complete it. I kind of get like that too. I keep on going because I don't know where the end actually is. So I just wanted to say that in case others out there also experience something like that, not having this strength to find it all, that might be what you experience as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Shelley. All right, so we have taken a look at beginning something new, and tomorrow we move into the 62. So let's take a look at next week's theme. And these are the things to pay attention to be aware of over the next week. When we take a look at the 62 is about detail. It's grounded by the 61, it's grounded by inner truth. So this is the preponderance of the small. This is manifestation through detail. This is the voice of I think. So again, we move from pressure to the first of the abstract voices of the 62 in the voice of I think. And this is about caution, patience, and detail that produce excellence out of limitation. And it's the fixing of names is the foundation of humanity and for sharing the human experience. Part of the detail is that we like to name things. We like to identify things. We like to give things a description. And it's through the fixing of names and how we identify things, in a sense, that gives us all of the detail. In many respects, what we're doing here is if we take a look at human design in BG5, there are all of these different traits. There's all of these different strengths. There's all of these different aspects to what a career design is all about. But what we're doing is we're focusing on the detail of just this one trait. We're just focusing on the detail of trait 62, and we've given it a name. The name is detail, right? So each of the traits have a name, and that's one of the things that trait 62 does, is it breaks things apart, and then it likes to name things. And this is a knack for organizing details, right? In order to better understand and explain complex concepts or situations. Right. So it's really being able to, and that's why I have the Rubik's Cube, being able to organize the details as well, being able to see similar patterns and to be able to organize them. And if we take a look at naming systems like if we take a look at libraries and how they, how they organize books, or if we take a look at the internet and how it organizes what we're searching for. This is the knack for organizing those details so that we can better understand and explain complex concepts or situations. Again, breaking it down to the detail, looking at the detail, and then being able to zoom out as well. It's part of what we do in teaching BG5 and human design as well, is zooming into the detail, right? So that we can see how that detail then also affects the whole. And this is the logical expression that can make concepts tangible, right? So how does this really tangibly show up? So what are the details of, like what we're discussing here, the details of how this trait 62 actually shows up for us. And we want to make it tangible so that it can be repeated, that it can be tested, that it can be validated, or that it can be disproven by others. Right. So we have kind of a concept. We want to see, oh, is this really real or not? Let's experiment with it. Right. And do we see a repeating pattern? And when you start to see a repeating pattern, it starts to make the concepts tangible, right? Because we see it happening over and over and over again. And this is also a strength that is projected, meaning that it needs to be asked to speak. So especially if you have details as part of your design, this will increase your potential receptivity to what you're sharing to help avoid just blurting out facts that no one's interested in, right? This is, in a sense, just the facts, ma'am. This is all the details. And sometimes, right, if somebody's not recognized and invited to share the details, it's like, the details go over somebody's head, or it's too much detail, or like, I don't really care about the detail. However, when you're recognized that you know the detail and you're invited to share the detail, that's where the details are really going to have an impact. Beautiful. So Shelley, what do you see in the detail? Do you have 62?
I don't actually, but my son does. He has it unconsciously, and he's a funny fellow that way. And he's often quite quiet. He sits and listens a lot. He's also got the 11, I think, of ideas. He loves to share stories and things, but often, and he's a 5-1 as well, so he gathers a lot of information, tons of detail, but he just hangs on to it. And then at the strangest time, somebody will bring up a subject and he'll just start talking about putting out all this detail and facts around that subject. And everybody goes, I didn't know you knew anything about that. But he knows a lot about a lot of things. He loves history. He loves understanding people. He reads a lot, and he just doesn't say anything about it until someone invites him, and then it all comes out. So it's surprised all of us lots of times, because he doesn't appear to have that much knowledge. But now we're getting to know him over his lifetime, that he actually knows quite a lot of things about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So that's how I've seen it show up.
I love that. Really great example, Shelley. How about for you, Anna?
Yeah, I do have the 62 in my driving force. And one of the examples that I can relate to in this is I can go small and I can go broad, specific and conceptual. But one of the things I like to do is, when you talk about naming, putting words on things, I love to look in the dictionary and find out what the definition is of something, where that definition came from, where it's rooted, what the original concept was. Because a lot of our words, we update them, we use them in pop culture. We don't even know where they originated, some of them. We just throw them around. And so in this process of sort of looking at the dictionary, pondering the root, what culture it came from, what era it came from, whatever, all those parts, those are the details. It gives me actually a structure for organizing whatever it is I'm trying to do. And when I was writing curriculum earlier on in my career, I would find that I would go general, then I would go specific, and then I would talk about the whole concept. And one of the things for me that's always an organizing principle that I can speak to, name things from, is nature and gardening, because it's so fundamental. And even if somebody's not a gardener, doesn't care about any of that, you still might buy flowers, let's say. And so you have a relationship. Let's say you bring your lover a rose or something. You still have a relationship with something that's organized. You have a sense that it came from a rose bush and somebody grew that rose bush and the rose bush was in the ground. Anyway, there's a evidence of this procedure, this naming process that belongs to a real live experience. It's not just a word. One of the things I'm curious about is people use words, but they don't have actually, a lot of times people don't question them. We just slap on terms. And when you actually get to the experience of naming, of what the name is, then you start to understand the much bigger concept in it. So I could ramble on, but that's where I go with this trait.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Anna. And again, looking at the details, I love that you look up the details even of the words as well. And Debbie, you have the 62 in your unconscious core essence. We'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Karen. Today I'm just listening versus watching, and I'm hearing so much more. So how this shows up in a couple areas. So my background in finance and accounting, number one, I love the details and I love sharing the details and how I present it to whoever needs to hear it, a business owner or a CEO. I describe it in a way that I'm creating a storybook of numbers for them. So it communicates to them how their business is performing, but also in specific areas. And so as you share about the details, I'm going, oh, okay, that I now I get more of, you know, because I try to conceptualize it. I try to make it less boring,
Hmm.
because numbers can be really boring for people because the fact that they don't get it. So I try to present it in a story form. And then in another area, I've been working on creating a program for my grief business. And I've mapped out 9 different steps, but it's all about the detail, right? And I wanted to describe, use descriptive words so it would communicate to people, what is this about? So like just as a brief example is like clarity to darkness. So that's one step. And then there's another step. So hearing Anna and you just share this is like more light bulbs are going off. So, and the more the more you hear it each time, because I'm sure I've heard this a couple of times about trait 62, but I hear it at a deeper level too. So.
Mm, beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much, Debbie, for sharing. And this is true. Every time we do the BG5 lives, even though I've studied this for forever, what everybody shares and the information that you hear it at a deeper and deeper level each time you hear it. I think that's part of the magic of this information as well. Well, beautiful. Well, on the other side, of course, we have how you get affected when you're connected. So we also want to take a look at the shadow of the 62 as well. So if we take a look at what's on the other side of the 62, it's the 17. So if you have the 17, but you don't have the 62, what you may feel is a lack of details needed for others to understand and value your input, right? So the 17 is about opinions, but you may have opinions without the detail. You have opinions without the details that others need to understand what you are sharing. So the question is, are you afraid that you don't have enough details to back up your opinions? And do you experience mental anxiety that no one will understand your input? So the problem is, again, you may have a deep-seated fear that your opinions will be challenged, so you end up not even sharing them. And you may need to have the details to back up any opinion and may find yourself looking for the words to represent your concepts and facts to support your opinions and for effective means to communicate your suggestion, right? So opinions are just opinions, but if you have opinions that are backed by facts and backed by details, right, people listen in a different way. So there may be a mental anxiety that arises out of the fear that no one will understand or value your input. Once again, from the BG5 perspective, the key is being able to take advantage of those things that we don't have by connecting with others. So the solution is connecting with others. So when you work with others who can provide the substantiating detail that you seek in order to structure your answer into a concept, into a workable pattern, in doing that, when you get the details behind what your opinion is, when you get the facts and those pieces behind your opinion also then carries more weight as well. So again, working with others can help give your opinions, in a sense, much more substantiated proof, much more power in being able to really describe and give facts and figures and reasons why you have the opinion that you have. So I would love to hear if anyone has the 17, but you don't have the 62, and how that may affect you or what you see in that. I don't know, Anna or Shelley, if you have any examples of that.
Just quickly, because I see a couple of people have their hands raised, but my daughter has the 17 without the 62. and her brother's the one with the 62. So it's fun to watch them when they get together. I know that she has struggled with this fear of wanting to talk about her opinions, but is kind of fearful that they'll get challenged because she can't always back them up. She just knows things. She's very intuitive as well. So sometimes she just knows things and yet can't find the words or the details or the facts to support how she actually knows those things. And I also have a sister who's an accountant, and Debbie, remind me of her. She's got the full strength. So she has her opinions and they are backed up by facts. And she can be quite opinionated at times and quite strong in her opinions because she can, back them up. So I see the difference between my daughter who's just got the 17 and my sister who's got the full strength. It really is a strength to be able to rely on that full channel. So
yeah, exactly. Beautiful, Shelley. Let's go to Daphne, and then we'll go to Anna. Daphne, hello, welcome.
Hi.
So great to have you join us.
Yes, I have the 17 and I don't have the 62. And I understand now very well why I'm so petrified of saying something, because I don't have the details and I'm not sure I'll know what to say and people won't understand it and others know it can do it much better. And it's affecting my life basically. It's a basic effect. And I don't dare do anything until I get my certification, until somebody else tells me that I can do the things, that I'm allowed to do the things. So it's a real basic experience.
Yes, really beautiful example, Daphne. Right. Again, sort of that fear of being able to share or to do things because you don't know if you have all of those details behind you. Exactly. Yes, and Lori as well, and then we'll go to Anna.
I have the 17, but not the 62. And I resonate with that idea that I will sometimes hold back saying something because I don't have all the facts. But if I do need them, I tend to overdo it in too many details. There's no sense of where the line is. And usually my opinions are based on some kind of intuition as opposed to a logical study, even though it's in the logical stream. And so I tend to speak to people who respect intuition, and that makes I feel better, more comfortable that they'll be more receptive. And if it becomes too detail oriented, I probably wouldn't say anything. So that's how I kind of dance with that one.
Yeah, and that goes right along with what Shelley shared as well, right? Having sort of intuitively having these opinions, but not necessarily having those facts to back them up.
Right.
Yeah.
The intuition can be correct, but you don't know how you know it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
And yes, Anna.
Well, I was just going to say quickly, the last two shares are relevant. I know someone with the 17, and that's my bridging trait. And this person tends to blurt out their opinion and they're intuitive, but they try to make facts. They try to line up all these facts and figures. It's like, what? It just doesn't match. And I just thought that's another part of what can happen when you have the 17 without the 62.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, thank you, Anna. And Vicky is saying, yes, 17, no 62 evaluator, and the need the transit or others to find the detail to articulate the hunch, usually from discussing with others. I don't know, Vicky, if there's anything else that you would like to, anything else you would like to add there as well. Looks like she may have dropped off. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Vicky. Yeah, beautiful. And Nani.
Hi, Karen. Hello, everybody. It's just brought to my awareness. I have the 17-1 in my personality moon, and it just occurred to me, I have a friend who sort of teases me all the time for always labeling things. And it must be my anxiety that I'm going to lose the details, or I don't want to get it confused. And I'm always making sure I put a label on things. So even though I don't have the 62, maybe there's this anxiety within me that if I don't label things just right, I'm going to lose, sense of the details, so to speak. But I've also noticed when the moon goes through the 62, there's always this productive sort of surge, and I can kind of almost like having the focus, concentration to maybe get through some detailed work. And so I'm looking forward to this solar transit. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Yes, thank you so much, Nanny. And it will be interesting to watch over this next week. We shift into the 62 tomorrow, and really being, especially if you do have trait 17 and you don't have trait 62, watching how that affects your opinions, watching how it affects you being able to communicate the detail over the next week. Beautiful. All right. Well, everyone who's on our panel, if we're going to, I'm going to ask you at the end, what are some things, especially about the 62, that we should be watching out or looking for in this upcoming week? Once again, if you are new to BG5 and you want to find out, do I have trait 62? Do I have trait 53? What's all of this about? You can visit our website at bg5businessinstitute.com. You can follow us on BG5 Live. You can download a free chart so that you can also see if you have those particular traits. And if you want to watch past episodes, you can watch past episodes of BG5 Live, both on YouTube and also in our free resource library as well. You'll also be able to find them on Facebook as well, because we also do Facebook Live. And we have our courses coming up in September. Also, you can still register for the BG5 Foundation course. It started last week with Lavina Archers. And so that class is open for another week. So if you want to jump in and start the foundation course right away, you still have the opportunity to do that. Again, we'll also have courses starting in September as well. So now's the time to start preparing for September. It's going to be here sooner than we know. All right, so let's wrap everything up. And again, I would love to hear from our panel. What are some things to be aware of or pay attention to this week, especially as we move into the 62? Let's start with Anna.
It would be certainly, check out your personal details. Sometimes it's easy to lose track of your budget or the gas in your car, or whatever, but in a broader sense, there's lots of details coming out in the media, mass media, alternative media, and I think it's fascinating how those details that are coming out are reshaping the story and how we name things that are going on.
Yeah, exactly. So paying attention to the details and paying attention to the details that are coming out in the news this week as well. I love it. Yeah, and Daphna, how about for you? There's anything that you would like to add or share in taking a look at the 62, or knowing the 62, what people should pay attention to in this upcoming week? Or what you're going to pay attention to in the upcoming week, having the 17 and not the 62.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Well, I think that changing in my mindset that I do have the details, and that I don't have to be afraid that I don't have the details is a very big challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at it. I'm certainly going to look at it.
Yes. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how it shows up for you in this next week, with trait 62 defined, and how you may experience the details, or may how you may be able to share your opinions in a different way in this next week. Yeah, thank you, Daphne, and thank you so much for joining in and sharing as well. Let's go to Debbie.
There we go. So I really don't have much to add based on what Anna had to say, but it's it's just to pay attention to what shows up in anything and see if there's just a little bit more detail in whatever it is that you're doing, or even in the energy. So just being aware. That's what I have to offer.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Debbie. And how about for you, Lori?
Oh, well, I was just noticing that I got my driver's license renewal, and it requires a whole bunch of online details. And something told me that I should wait for the right time. And so now I know that it'll be tomorrow. 62. So thanks for the heads up on that one.
I love that. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lori. And again, thank you for your contribution. Love it.
Thank you.
And Nanny.
I echo what Daphne said, and also potentially waiting to be recognized and invited to share the details and opinions. It's a projected channel, so something to consider. And an interesting detail is that the full moon will be in the 61.1 of occult knowledge. So there's going to be maybe just something to contemplate and notice around that. That's what I will be focusing on. So thank you.
Oh, yes. Thanks for sharing that, Nanny. Yeah. Taking a look at that as well. The 61 is also what grounds the 62. I think it's actually a supermoon, and that's part of what makes it a supermoon, is that alignment as well. Beautiful. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I'll be checking that out as well. And Leanna.
Thank you. I have this one, the 17, and the 62 completely open. So I've just been chatting with my girlfriend as we've been doing this, because she's got the 62 conscious, the 17 unconscious. So she has the full strength. What was really interesting is because her 17's been unconscious, she hasn't been fully aware of this as a full strength. So I just want to bring in the community aspect of something to think about, is educating or finding someone in your life that you can share this with. So that, because BG5 is relational, so it's the process of differentiation, discovering your unique self down to its simplest and yet most beautiful circuitry. And as you've taught me, Karen, it's also, and obviously the work shows you this, it also teaches us how to relate. So it's relational. So for anyone who's doing this study, self-study or study with BG5 in whatever capacity, or you've done your studies, but you're still a part of, however you're engaging with this information, I'd love to invite you to create maybe some more community around it, where you do find that you reach out to someone that maybe you wouldn't have reached out to, or maybe you haven't told people that you're learning about this, even though it brings you so much clarity, comfort, and joy. But I'd love to invite that you reach out and have a look at, have I told people, am I sharing with people? And is there anyone that I could take on my journey with me? Because I have found that when I have introduced some people in, they have found just as much joy in it as I have. So I know I'm not talking about the traits, but I just wanted to bring in that community piece. Are you sharing this part with anyone else? Because of the relational, you can then bounce it off them, and they can verify for you, they can give feedback for you, and it will bring you an even deeper insight on how you work.
Really beautiful, Leanna. And really the rest of July is all about sharing. It is about collective sharing. So, in whatever way sharing this information and being able to bounce off and being able to find the details and tell the stories and all the things that we're going to be taking a look at in sharing over the rest of this month as well. Thank you so much, Leanna. And Shelley.
Wow, such beautiful conversation. I love it. It's so inspiring. I love everybody's detailed insights that are all slightly different and unique. I think what comes up for me is I have this whole channel and strength open as well. And as I'm listening to everybody, I'm pondering about how challenging it can be to find the right descriptive word. It was something that Anna was talking about earlier. It gave me more insight into my son, as he's a writer as well, and he often struggles to find the right word to describe what his experience or what he's trying to convey. And when you think about it, the world is so enormously infinite that our ability to label and name things is really quite amazing, because there's so many different ways you could describe the same thing, especially from so many different perspectives. And we all have that unique perspective of looking at things. So I would say that this week might be a great opportunity to notice whether or not it's a bit easier for you to name things or describe things or notice details you didn't notice before, have things brought into your awareness that you really weren't paying attention to. It may be a week where there's a real laser focus on details that we might not have noticed. So, and it may help us expand our vocabulary and different ways to describe things, as someone else was talking about, all the things that are coming out in the world now, all the details that are being exposed about the way things have been done in the past, and the way we're now able to look at them from a different lens and upgrade the way we talk about those things and find new words and more ways to describe what we'd love to have as better experiences than what we might have had in the past. So it's really an exciting time to be alive and to be aware. And as Leanna so in such a lovely way described, just connecting with each other about all the different things that are going on right now, and definitely having BG5 as a language that we can share that can help us all understand our own uniqueness and each other's, and be able to relate with each other in a much more detailed way. Thank you all.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Shelley. And thank you for our panel. This is so fun and so rich to hear from all of you. So I so appreciate all of your contributions. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So tap into the detail, listen for the detail, see the detail out in the world. And we will continue to take a look at sharing throughout this week. And again, this week is really going to be focused on the details. All right, everyone, have a fabulous week focusing on the details, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.